What do you think about Greta Thunberg's recent trip to Gaza, and what do you think is going to be the future of this war? Check out this clip over here on the Piers Morgan show, where a bunch of panelists are talking about different views about Greta, about the war, and so forth. So we'll watch it together and then talk about it. But first, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Check this out.
That there is something attention-seeking about protests by definition, because you're trying to draw attention to an injustice. And in the case of Greta, she is drawing attention to the fact that Gaza is under siege, that Israel is blocking food from going in, that people are starving inside of Gaza because of the policy that Israel has imposed on them. And world governments are displaying an unspeakable moral failure in refusing to stand up to the Israeli government and insist that food get to the people of Gaza. And so she's taking it upon herself to get on a boat and ship food there. That is what people do in a protest. Yes, she may have known that it's unlikely that the Israeli government and the military are going to allow her to get through, but that doesn't mean that you don't try and challenge unjust systems. That is just basics. I mean, when you think about Rosa Parks refusing to get up and go to the back of the bus, you can say, well, that's symbolic. Well, yes, it is symbolic, but it means something.
You can't seriously, sorry, but look, Omar, you can't seriously,
you refuse to accept it.
Omar, with the best will in the world, you cannot seriously, with a straight face, compare Rosa Parks to Greta Thunberg. Come on.
I'm not comparing them.
You just did.
The point I'm drawing attention to, Piers.
You literally just did.
I'm saying what's similar about those situations. No, the point of an analogy is to draw on a similarity. The similarity between the situations is not that Greta is like Rosa Parks. What's similar about them is that people, in the face of injustice, refuse to comply with that injustice. When somebody sees that a captive population is being refused food, we don't just accept that we are not going to go there. Just because you individually do not have the power to force the issue yourself doesn't mean that you try to lead by example so that hopefully other people can force the issue. And collectively, if everybody acted the way Greta did, then we would actually break that blockade and help the people of Gaza.
All the pictures I saw today when I woke up were of Greta Thunberg grinning her head off, being given a sandwich by the IDF. How that helps anybody on the Gaza Strip is completely beyond me. All right, Shamos, here's my question for you. It's a genuine question. I expected blowback when I got more aggressive in my questioning of an Israeli ambassador and a pro-Israeli lawyer. I expected it, but the scale of it and the venom and viciousness of it and the deliberately disingenuous twisting of my criticism of an Israeli government policy right now as somehow equating, as many of them did, to Jew-hating and so on, and being anti-Semitic. Appalling allegations for which there's no evidence I've ever been anti-Semitic or ever hated Jewish people. And there wouldn't be, because I don't. But this idea that that's the only default position to anyone who criticizes the government right now, when vast swathes of the international community are criticizing Israel's government for what it's doing. I don't understand that. I mean, I remember when I was editor of the Daily Mirror over here in 2003, I opposed the Iraq War. It didn't mean that I hated English people. So I don't understand why this has to be the default position. And I had it all, by the way, from the pro-Palestinian side at the start of the war, when they all thought I was in the tank for the Israelis. I just thought Israel had a right to defend itself, but I kept asking, what is proportionate? I don't know, I kept saying. What is proportionate? And then I reached the conclusion several weeks ago, having been increasingly critical all year, by the way, and people can go back and check if they can be bothered, but I've been increasingly critical. And then when this blockade started, I thought they're actually starving people now. That is a war crime. You can't starve people. It's actually a war crime. And to not call out what you see would be a dereliction of duty as a journalist. But I just don't understand why criticizing a government means you hate a people. Can you explain that?
Sure, I would definitely agree with you. Whether it's anti-Semitic or not sort of misses the point. It's just bad politics and it's bad policies. I'm not in the interest or in the business of dictating whether Israeli policy or the Israeli government is orchestrating the war well or not. What I will say is this, and Omar mentioned this earlier, if you truly believe that the innocent civilian population of Gaza are being forced to have this mass starvation efforts, if you truly believe that that is the case, well, okay, Gaza shares a border with Egypt. Why don't you allow, in the exact same way that has been fought in modern warfare of the last 100 years, anytime an innocent civilian population is facing war in their own home front, that you would safely evacuate them to a neighboring country? I remember when Amnesty International, when the Human Rights Watch, when Kenneth Ross said, hang on, when they said that it is Bangladesh's responsibility to take in Rohingya.
Why doesn't Egypt help us with ethnic cleansing when they're dealing with overpopulation issues?
Great. So as I was saying, I remember when the Human Rights Campaign said that it was incumbent upon Bangladesh to welcome in Rohingya refugees. I remember when Kenneth Ross said that it was Uzbekistan's responsibility and Pakistan's refugee to welcome in Afghani refugees, when it was Turkey's responsibility to welcome in Syrian refugees. We want innocent civilians to be protected, which is why the Trump plan is a plan.
Okay, you should take them into Israel. Why doesn't Israel accept them?
And why do you interrupt? These are all very good questions. We have seen for the last year and a half that the only way we can safely evacuate 1.5 million people who are innocent civilians, I agree with you, is by opening humanitarian corridors into Egypt. But the problem is, every time we suggest that, it's ethnic cleansing. Okay, well then inadvertently, when human civilians are...
Why Egypt? Why not Tel Aviv?
1 second, because Hamas builds terror infrastructure underneath hospitals, and they build terror infrastructures underneath schools, then Israel is targeting innocent civilians deliberately, and it's genocide. Okay, if you truly believe that that's the case, let's safely evacuate them. Oh, we can't because that's ethnic cleansing.
You can't turn on Israeli media without listening to genocidal language 24/7 about how it's time to get rid of Palestinians entirely. And in one case, you have a former member of the Likud party in Israel who recently said that even babies in Gaza, every last one of them, is an enemy. So in the face of an Israeli society and Israeli government that speaks like that, to now come along and say, no, we're trying to do our best and it's only about defeating the terrorists. I mean, again, you're just fighting a losing battle, and that's why the world is fed up with it, because they see Israel speaking for itself directly, and then you have that filter that Israel's apologists, who are trained about how to speak about Israel in a way that is supposed to be more palatable, in direct contrast to what Israeli policies actually are, and that jig is up. That game doesn't work anymore.
Okay.
Sure. I would say two things. Number one, if we want to play the game of what individuals are saying about the war in Gaza, Hassan Nasrallah has repeated for years, it would be great for all the Jews to live in Israel because it would be so much more convenient to kill you in one location than having to hunt you down country to country. Thank God the Israel Defense Forces killed him. Yahweh Sinwar repeatedly said that there would be millions and millions of more October 7th, and we would have to fight to the very last child. Thank God the Israel Defense Forces killed him. I will say this. If you truly care about the Palestinian population, if you truly care about innocent civilians, then all I would suggest is that we would do what we have done in every single war fought in modern warfare when there is a refugee population. You would safely evacuate them into humanitarian corridors so you can take out the enemy combatants. And when the war is over, you will bring them back into Gaza and you can rebuild Gaza, not into the dictatorial, tyrannical regime it currently is, but rather the Singapore of the West, which is what it was meant to be when Israel pulled out every last Jew, living and dead, in 2005. They wanted to build up Gaza so that could be an economic and cultural powerhouse. But instead, the Palestinian people elected Hamas, and we all know what that brought about. So if you care about the Palestinian people, then all I would suggest is do not have the Palestinian exception. Rather, follow the foreign policy of the last 100 years and safely evacuate the innocent civilians. You can take out the enemy. When the enemy is finally killed, you can bring it back. And if you don't like that option, I have another option. Tell Hamas to surrender immediately and return the hostages. But apparently that's not conducive to Western civilization anymore.
All right.
That's a lovely fantasy.
No.
It's interesting. They shake their heads, but they're kind of on both sides of the fence over here. When it comes to the IDF going in and trying to take out terrorists who are purposely embedding themselves within the civilian population, they are appalled that civilians are killed fighting an impossible war where the terrorists are breaking all of the rules of warfare. They dress like civilians. They hide amongst civilians. They bury themselves in hospitals and in schools and in nurseries and in playgrounds. And that's where they purposely do that. We know that. That's a fact on the ground. And so when Israel's trying to fight an impossible war and then civilians are unfortunately taken down in the collateral damage, the world is outraged. Okay, fine. So let's get them out. Let's get the civilian population out of Israel. Well, they can't do that because that's ethnic cleansing. Well, what is Israel supposed to do? What is Israel supposed to do? Israel's critics need to come up with some sort of plan, idea, something that can be on the discussion table, not just criticizing everything and saying, no, that's not doing it right. Well, that's not doing it right. Well, that's not doing it right. Like, there's got to be something presented at the table that can actually be, a workable suggestion. Like, what else? What are we talking about over here? What if you do it? If they don't like it this way, you don't like it this way. I don't know what other ways are there to do this. Like what? And we know, like was correctly pointed out, if Israel put down their weapons today, they would be completely destroyed by Hamas. Hamas has no interest in a so-called two-state solution. This is not about land or carving out just exactly the right pattern, right? You get this block, we get this block. That's not what it's about. It's from the river to the sea. If Israel puts down its weapons, Israel is finished. Vice versa, though, if Hamas puts down its weapons, Israel will not attack it. It will be at peace. The war will be over, and everyone lives happily ever after. Once Hamas puts down their weapons and returns the hostages, this war is over, and everybody who follows this situation knows that. If you like this content overall, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Take care.